This subject that we're going to be talking about is social injustice and what should Christians do. And namely, Seventh-day Adventists. There's a message that we have for a time like this, and not many are living up to that call. Not many are speaking on that message. A lot of people are speaking out in emotion. A lot of people are speaking out in anger, and there is good reason for that, for the things that have been going on, for the people who have lost their lives, the police shootings. There's reason for us to be angry. So, even so, there's still, a way that it is that we have to approach the situation. And for us to be able to, handle whatever it is that we need to handle in the near future, or bring the church and the people of God and the people who are on the outside in the direction that we need to go in the future, we have to have an understanding of the past. Where does all this social injustice begin? There has to be a starting point. It didn't just happen one day. So where does it all begin? So I want you to watch this video and we'll see where the beginning of the social injustices came from.
Around 1442, the first slaves would be taken out of West Africa. Spain and Portugal goes to the Pope, the leading arbitrator of that day, the one person in Europe with the greatest authority. The Pope would say to Spain and Portugal, you take the East and you take the West, and you two good Catholic nations start fighting among yourselves. And then the profound statement before departure, you are both authorized to reduce to servitude all infidel people. The slave trade now had been sanctioned, and Europeans had been told they need not feel guilty of it because you're doing this to an infidel who is outside of God's grace. England went into the slave trade with a vengeance, led by Captain Hawkins and the good ship Jesus. The ship was called the good ship Jesus. The coat of arms on the ship was two Africans bound back to back with their arms tied. So they saw no contradiction in being in the slave trade and being Christians at the same time.
What we have here, the Spanish and the Portuguese were in a quarrel with each other over economics. The Pope tried to quell their squabbling. So he said, listen, you guys have this big venture going. You guys gone out and discovered other lands, and you need people to work the fields in that land so that you can get crops, and you can take the spices and all the things that you have and to, grow it, to harvest it, and to export it. So this is what you're going to do. The papacy was having an issue in Africa. They were trying to get the Africans over there who were Christians. There were Christians in Africa way before any English or any Spanish person went over there to start any kind of slave trade. What happened was that the Jews found a place of safety in Africa from persecution. And if we have an understanding of prophecy, which is not spoken of in church anymore, we would understand that this is Africa is one of the places, especially Northern Africa, is one of the places that God provided for people who were seeking asylum from persecution to go to. The Northern Africans are the individuals that observed a form of Christianity where Sabbath keeping was the basis of it. So God had a people in Africa way before any white man came to Africa, where any Spaniard or any of the Portuguese came to Africa and started the slave trade. The Christians were there. The issue was that they would not take on the Catholic form of Christianity. The Muslims and the Catholics were fighting for control of that area. The Muslims eventually won out, and the entire region that was Catholic now turned into, it was Sabbath-keeping Christians turned into an Islam-conquered area. If you study do a study of Revelation chapter 4 through 9. There you'll see the and prophecy that what Islam's role in changing that entire area from a Sabbath-keeping Christians to Islam. So here's what happened. Because of this, Pope knew that these individuals were not going to accept their form of Christianity. So he said to the Spanish and to the Portuguese, there are these explorers. These explorers were a part of an organization called Jesuits. The Jesuits did the bidding, these Jesuits did the bidding of the Catholic Church. They were like their secret police. He said, listen, you go over there in the guise of missionaries, and if these people do not accept it, you don't have to see them, and in the eyes of God, they're not going to be seen as human beings. If they don't observe or accept our form of Christianity, not that they weren't Christians to begin with, or they didn't have the truth to begin with. They had the truth. They wanted them to accept a false truth, and to let the papacy be the head over them. So they said, if they don't accept this, they're heretics, and heretics are not human beings. God sees them as less than human beings, so then you can treat them less than human beings. And I give you my blessing, the blessing of God, that these individuals, that you will not be, the wrath of God won't come upon you if you treat these individuals as less than human beings. So it is actually the papacy that created the notions that black people were less than human beings. That's where the notion was created from. So in anything, all roads lead back to Rome. All roads lead back to Rome. So the one got the western part of Africa and another got the southern part of Africa, and they brought people to the Caribbean. I've traced my lineage. The Spaniards brought my people to Jamaica. Then the English were able to conquer them and take over Jamaica. And a guy named William George Ricketts took my family and gave them the name Ricketts, and that's where my people come from. That's where my father's side comes from. So we see, the Jesuits, how the papacy initiated the Jesuits to do this thing, and they didn't put their name. They say, you do this. The papacy is not going to put their name on it. So which is why no one, goes back and says, Rome is the one that started, slavery, started bringing people over. But it was actually Rome that sanctioned this to happen. And they told the English that they were able to do it as well, and that the English could go over there and start doing the same. So this is how the slave trade began. So let's speak about these Jesuits. Again, they became the secret police around 1540. They became the secret police sanctioned by the Pope to do his bidding. See, the Bible says that the papacy was to receive a deadly wound. So there was going to be a time period where they were going to have to go into the shadows, but they still wanted to have control. So they used the Jesuits to still have this kind of control, and also to do things, some detestable things that the papacy wouldn't be named for. Because the Jesuits were so disgusting that countries banned them from coming into their country. So if you were found to be a Jesuit, they'd execute you or they'd deport you. So what the Jesuits would do is they would get the most prominent individuals from the universities around Europe. The writers, thinkers, inventors, mathematicians, all these prominent individuals from these universities, and they would induct them into this organization so that they had the best and the brightest in their organization. Today we have Jesuit universities all throughout the world. In America we have Jesuit universities, Georgetown, Yale, Harvard, Browns, Liz went, I always say this, Liz went to a Jesuit university, Fordham University. They tried it, they actually, she has a testimony on how they tried to indoctrinate her and they tried to make her take on their beliefs, and she refused to take on their beliefs and stood true to her Adventist teachings, and they eventually just let her go off. Now remember Fordham University, that's very important to this, and it's again, Jesuit organization. Someone very prominent that is a lead figure in our government is a Jesuit that received his Jesuit training in Fordham University. So, we have all these prominent universities that they take individuals from. Remember, Fordham University, Yale University, Jesuit institutions.